Hi, Alan Stratton from Woodturning. Once you have a bunch of eggs, you gotta have something to put them in. Something appropriate for the season also. Why not a basket for my eggs? This one is made of cherry and walnut and has a basket-like pattern on the side. So I'll make this to put all my eggs in. Let's turn this bowl. This will be a segmented project, but in this video I will not show cutting segments and gluing up rings. I did show that in a recent video and it really doesn't change much. For this project I'm starting with a large faceplate and my topmost ring of walnut. This walnut ring is held with double stick tape, and my Longworth chuck on my live center does a great job of centering the ring to the faceplate. I split the top ring in half. I feel it will be stronger with an extra glue joint since the top ring does not have another ring on top of it. Duh, that should have been obvious. Now the other half is in the Longworth chuck to be glued to the top ring. I was a bit worried whether I had enough good contact and pressure, so I added some clamps to be sure. Here comes the first cherry ring. For these rings, each cherry segment is separated from its neighbor by a 1/8 inch piece of end grain walnut. This is end grain to reduce segment to segment stress. Spread the glue and press them together. With this thicker ring, I am confident of the joint and do not need additional clamps. While that dried, I also glued a thin 1/8 inch walnut ring to the next cherry ring. Now I can glue this as a pair to the growing stack of rings. Here comes cherry ring number 2, same process, and the final cherry ring, again, same process. Offline, I glued up my own cross-banded cherry plywood. Do not ever want to use a solid base for a nice segmented project. There is simply too much risk of cracking due to different expansion and contraction rates. This needs to be mounted to a faceplate with wood glue. I do not trust double stick tape here. With the glue having dried overnight, I can trim back the exterior. At this time, I want a rough profile. I will come back later after the base is glued in to get the final surface. While I can do some push cutting, I like to take off the points with a shear cut to avoid splintering the points at the segment glue joints. For the most part, I'm shear cutting anyway. The interior is very uneven from the ring offsets and the indents at segment joints. At this time, I need to smooth this out with my box scraper because the sides are quite straight. While I'm at it, I am cutting a small rabbet to receive my DIY cherry plywood base. And carefully glue it in. I do not want a lot of glue squeeze out. It would be a big mess to clean up. Now to clean up the interior, I like my heavy box scraper here. The continuous side grain streams out in nice long streams, even though it is dry wood. But I took one too many cuts at the base joint, and I had not let the glue dry overnight, only an hour or two. I removed the little edge that was holding the base. To fix, I used the Longworth chuck again and double stick tape to make a new rabbet, and glued it in again after tapering in another thin walnut ring to take up the stack. This time I waited overnight for the glue to dry. I am back now to finish after that rude interruption. I can finish the interior and the exterior. I'm making sure to not cut too deep at the joint between the side and the bottom. But it is thin, but strong enough. On the outside, I am now almost exclusively shear cutting. Then I thoroughly sanded my bowl. That base is glued to the glue block. I need to now part off the bowl. Since the base is recessed into the bowl, parting it off will leave a fairly thick slice of my glue block still attached. So now I'm using the cold jaws to clean up the base. Gentle strokes are required since there is not a lot to spare. I keep the live center in place for additional security. A rubber stopper keeps the point from marring the base. Then sand the base. Finally, walnut oil will make the grain pop. I may buff it a bit later to after the oil dries. This completes my basket bowl. The segmenting process gave me the opportunity to create a basket-like bowl to hold my eggs. While it does take time to assemble the base and let glue dry, I can turn items that are impossible to turn from solid wood. Do not take this the wrong way. I still turn solid wood, but I enjoy taking the best of both worlds. Please give this video a thumbs up, subscribe on my website, and tell your friends about my videos. I appreciate your comments and questions. Every week I add a new wood turning video to my website. Always, please wear your full face shield anytime the lathe is running. A face shield saved my life and it can save yours, but only if you use it. I will see you again next week.